What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Modern Warfare 3. And in today's episode, we're going to be covering the brand new TAQ Evolvere LMG. And starting it off as always, let's have a look at our damage profile with 7.62x51, which is the default caliber. We'll also be looking at 5.56 in a little bit. And with this caliber, we deal the same amount of damage anywhere in the body, so you don't have to worry about body multipliers, and it will be a guaranteed 5-shot kill at any range. So super consistent when it comes to this. Also, when it comes to headshots, they're not particularly good to go for with this gun. Technically, in the maximum damage range, if you land 3 out of your 4 shots to the head, you can get a 4-shot kill, but that's pretty unlikely. And in the second damage range, if you hit literally every one of your 4 bullets to the head, you can get a 4-shot kill. But again, you're probably just better off aiming for the body in those cases. So there we go, that's a damage profile with the default caliber, which is 7.62. However, you can use 5.56 ammo just by changing out your magazine, and this gives you a totally different damage profile. And with this, it's now going to be a 5 to 6 shot kill potential to the body, but that does require you to hit upper torso, neck, or head shots in order to maintain that. And it has the potential to drop off to a 6 to even 7 shot kill if you're not hitting those bonus zones. And it's also quite unforgiving with these bonus zones as well. So in the maximum damage range, you have to hit at least 3 out of your 5 shots to the upper torso, neck, or head if you want to get a 5-shot kill. Otherwise, it'll take you 6. And in the second damage range, every one of your shots has to hit the upper torso, neck, or head if you want to maintain that 5-shot kill. Even just 1 shot to the arm or lower torso will make this a 6-shot kill. So unlike with the 7.62, where it's always a 5-shot kill, you got to work pretty hard to maintain that 5-shot kill with 5.56. Next, let's have a look at our rate of fire, and it's quite interesting. Your rate of fire doesn't change at all when swapping between the different calibers. And with this, we have an open bolt delay of 30 milliseconds, so the moment you pull the trigger, it's going to take 30 milliseconds before that shot actually fires. And then our rate of fire is 706 rounds per minute, which, it's worth noting, this is identical to the Holger 26. Now what this means with our time to kill potential is with a 5-shot kill, this is 340 milliseconds, which is not completely horrible, but it's also not really great by any means. It's just kind of okay. And if we do drop off to a 6-shot kill, this is now going to take 425 milliseconds. Keeping in mind, those values don't include the open bolt delay, and you may want to add that for a more realistic time to kill potential. As for our range values, as you can see here, with 7.62, our range values don't really matter because it's always a 5-shot kill, no matter where you shoot them. But when using 5.56, this is where you have to be aware we will drop off to that 6-shot kill at about 36 meters, which honestly isn't a great range for an LMG, at least in this game. As for a bullet velocity, with 7.62, it's 805 meters per second, and it's actually a little bit faster with 5.56 at 902 meters per second. And then let's take a look at hardcore, and if you're using 7.62, this will always be a 1-shot kill unless you're shooting through something. Whereas with 5.56, it becomes a lot less forgiving. While we can get a 1-shot kill in the first 2 damage ranges, that shot has to hit either the upper torso, neck, or head. Whereas beyond that range, or if you shoot them anywhere else in the body, it is going to take you 2 shots to kill. Next, let's move into Hipfire, and this gun's just pretty standard for LMGs, which means you generally don't want to be hip-firing with this gun. And now let's take a look at recoil, and we're going to start this off with the 7.62x51 recoil, which, as you can see, there's not a whole lot, especially for a heavier caliber. It kicks basically straight up with very little horizontal deviation. I did notice some inconsistency. When I do multiple recoil plots, each plot always looks a little bit different, but it's the same general trend. It kicks basically straight upwards with very little deviation or jumps. However, when we swap over to 5.56, it becomes even more accurate. And again, it kicks basically straight up, although it does have a bit more of a tendency to eventually lean a little bit to the left or the right. But the total magnitude of recoil is very significantly reduced if you're using 5.56. After that, let's get into our handling stats, and our base aim down sight time is 385 milliseconds. However, with the same 100-round magazine in 5.56, we actually get a bit of a better aim down sight speed at 366 milliseconds. Then with our sprint to fire time, this is 245 milliseconds for our standard sprint out time and about 370 for our tactical sprint out time. And again, it is going to be a little bit faster even with the same magazine capacity in 5.56. And then finally for handling, let's have a look at our reload add time, which is very slow at 5.31 seconds. This isn't quite the slowest, it's a little bit faster than the MWIII 7.62, but it's still an extremely slow reload. And this one doesn't change if you swap over to 5.56 with that same 100-round mag. And then finally, for the base stats of this gun, let's have a look at our mobility stats. And across the board, even with 7.62, we've got solid mobility for an LMG. It's noticeably better than average in every way. And not only that, both our base movement speed and our aim walking movement speed will improve if we swap over to 5.56. And there we go, that's finally gonna wrap it up for all of the base stats of the TAQ Evolvere, and I just wanna have a brief section here on which caliber I tend to prefer. And honestly, I just like sticking to 7.62 for the pure consistency with the gun. While it's kind of nice to get like a laser accurate gun out of 5.56 with slightly better handling and mobility stats, for me, I'd much rather have a quite accurate and extremely consistent gun than an extremely accurate but quite inconsistent gun, which is what you get with 5.56. And with that, let's move into some excellent attachment combinations I've got for you guys. And the first one I wanted to share is my 7.62 accuracy build. And with this, we're using the T51R billeted brake, the SL skeletal vertical grip, the rear grip that currently ends with the word aim. I think this is meant to have a different name and it likely will in the future, but it's the one that improves your aiming idle sway, your gun kick control, and your recoil control at the cost of aim walking movement speed. Then we have the SA Kilonova stock, and finally the Mark III reflector. And with this particular build, we've got a very accurate gun on our hands. This recoil is super easy to control and predict. Our aim down sight speed is actually improved a little bit as well. It's 369 milliseconds, which is great for a super accurate and consistent gun. Our sprint out time is also improved slightly at 233 milliseconds. And the trade-offs with this are we lose 5% to our damage range, which is irrelevant with this gun since it's always a 5-shot kill anyway. And we lose a bit of bullet velocity, but honestly, 773 meters per second is still excellent, even for quite long-range engagements. So there we go, that's the first one. Now let's move into my stealth build. And again, we're sticking with 7.62 on this one. And with this, we're using the Shadow Strike suppressor. Once again, that SL skeletal vertical underbarrel grip, that same rear grip that ends in aim, the SA Kilonova stock, and then finally, I topped this off with the Schlager PEC Box 4 just to help a bit more with our aim down sight speed so we can be a bit more versatile. And you'll notice I left out the optic, and that's because the iron sight on this gun is very good. And especially if I'm trying to be a bit more aggressive, I just don't feel the need to have an optic on this particular setup. And with this one, it's still a very accurate build. It's still quite easy to control this, although obviously not as accurate as my previous build. Our aim down sight speed is pretty great for an LMG at 356 milliseconds. Our sprint out speed is the same as the previous build at 233 milliseconds. And then of course with this one, we're staying off the radar when we fire our gun, which is nice if you want to flank around a little bit. And with that, we've got one more build I wanted to share for you guys, and I didn't want to leave you completely hanging if you wanted to try out 5.56. So what I created here is my quote-unquote zero recoil 5.56 build. And with this one, we're once again using the T51R billeted brake, the SL skeletal vertical underbarrel, the 100 round 5.56 belt. If you wanted to use the 200 round, you could go for that as well. Then we've got the Rampart Heavy stock, and then finally the Corio Eagle's Eye 2.5x optic. And this one is ridiculously accurate. There is basically no recoil with this gun. It is so easy to control for that tiny bit of recoil that you do get, to the point where you can just hold this directly on your target. Our aim down sight speed with this is 373 milliseconds. Our sprint out time is very good for an LMG at 213 milliseconds. Our bullet velocity is also nicely improved at 865 meters per second, so this is excellent even at extremely long ranges. However, of course, we are using 5.56, so the big trade-off here comes with our consistency. And mainly you're just banking on the fact that you're going to be hitting more shots more consistently at extremely long ranges, and that's what's designed to give you the edge with this particular setup. Now again, for me, I'm not a big fan of the 5.56 on this gun, and I am going to be leaning in the direction of the first two builds. I just wanted to make sure I was sharing at least one build for you guys if you were interested in checking out 5.56. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the new TAQ Evolvere LMG. As for my thoughts on this gun, I think it's pretty great. It's super accurate, super consistent, at least with 7.62, and I really have no complaints with it. It's very easy to use, very easy to handle, and the only thing I would say is I'm not a big fan of 5.56, but I also don't think it's necessarily objectively bad in 5.56. It's more so just a preference thing, and I'd rather maintain that consistency with 7.62, and when I do that, I've found a lot of success with this gun already. Now, of course, these are just my thoughts on this new LMG, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it in those comments down below. And also, if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes, including the brand new HRM9 SMG, I will leave a link to the gun guide playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.